And let's go to the Wise Lines, the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines, and catch up with Ian Castleberry for our NFL Gold Nuggets feature, presented by David and the gang at DC Creasman Jewelers. Ian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Chris, great to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, too, Ian. Looking forward to it. Always enjoy your segments. And, man, let's talk football because there's some great matchups this weekend. And what of those 4 games, which has you the most excited?
I think I'm the last one, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. I mean, all 4 matchups are good, but that's the one. The third time that they've played this season, that's the one I've got circled on my calendar.
Yeah, we're going to come back and recap or preview that game coming up, so get ready for that, guys. And before we get to these divisional matchups, and there's some great ones that we're heading into, let's get a couple of coaching stories out there for us. And the latest on Urban Meyer to the Jags. We hear it's getting close. How close are they, Ian?
It sounds like it's just about done. I don't know what details need to be worked out as far as contract money, maybe what kind of coaching staff Urban Meyer wants to put together. But this morning it sounded like this could be done. I honestly wondered if it was going to be a done deal by the time we started talking, but I think it could certainly be announced tomorrow that Urban Meyer is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach.
Holy cow, Chris, what do you say, man?
Yeah, Ian, I tell you what, it might be an attractive spot. They're coming off the worst record in the NFL, hence they picked number 1, and you got to think that's going to be Trevor Lawrence. But they have 11 picks in this draft, and they have $100 million. Let me repeat that, $100 million in cap space. Do you think this is one of the better of those jobs that's open right now, or would you lean to more like a Philadelphia team that's closer and has had some recent success? If you were ranking these jobs, if you were Urban Meyer and could pick, is this number 1 for you?
Yeah, I think this is number 1 in terms of if you want to build a team in your own vision. You mentioned Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 pick, 11 draft picks in this upcoming draft. 4 of those will be in the first 2 rounds. So Urban Meyer really, I think this is the closest of all the NFL openings that there will be to essentially taking over a college job where you would have a chance to add all of your own players. Also, I think the fact that the Jaguars haven't been interviewing too many general manager candidates right now says that Urban Meyer is going to have a lot of authority over personnel, probably more than he would have with any of the other openings available in the NFL, and I think that's extremely attractive to him as well.
Gee, that Jets job seems just, I mean, Sam Darnold, he's on the rise. Never mind. Yeah, Urban, I agree. I think he's at the right spot, and it's rare that you get to have this opportunity as a coach in the NFL to do what Urban could do, and that is kind of rebuild an organization like that. And again, let's find out, Chris Smith, how his personnel side works, because this is not going out and recruiting players. This is looking at talent, evaluating talent, and going from there. I mean, this is a great opportunity. If it works out in 3, maybe 4 years, Jacksonville will be right there, maybe sooner.
Yeah, we've seen similar moves fail. Steve Spurrier comes to mind. But Urban Meyer's a little bit different. He's not that rah-rah coach that a Dabo Swinney is. You wonder how Dabo would do at the NFL level. That might not play at the NFL level, that rah-rah game. Urban Meyer's a little bit more of a disciplinarian. He may run some guys out of there before he gets the guys he wants in his 53. He may make some moves and jettison some guys, but with 11 draft picks and $100 million in cap space, you can do that. And I do think that, the future's bright there. They got nowhere to go but up. So if you're going to take a job, this is a higher risk reward job. It's there to be had. So.
And my concern is his health. Because he left the game due to stress, heart condition, and B, taking an NFL job, which is, if you want to lose the stress, taking an NFL gig is probably not the best way to do it. But obviously his health must be better. But Ian also too, as Shoot points out, man, it's the jump when you go from college to the NFL as a coach. It is a whole different world, and I'm sure Urban realizes that. But wait, we don't know until he actually gets in it. That's always a concern of mine when coaches come from college to the pros, if they're able to handle the workload of the NFL.
Yeah, there'll definitely be a transition. I mean, of course, he won't have to recruit, but, there might be more time spent in the film room and preparing. And if he does have personnel power, overseeing the roster. I do think, though, that Urban Meyer's offense has had a big influence on NFL offenses. We see more aspects of the college game in the pros now than vice versa. We've heard of stories like Bill Belichick, would travel to Ohio State or would travel to Florida when Meyer was there to try and pick up pieces of that RPO, that run pass option offense that he ran so successfully. But another question I have for you guys is, how much does the hero complex do you think play into something like this? Because Urban Meyer, if he takes the Atlanta Falcons, for instance, to the Super Bowl, okay, that's impressive. He took a team to the Super Bowl. But if he turns around and lifts the Jacksonville Jaguars to a Super Bowl team, to a possible Super Bowl champion, I mean, his legend will become even bigger.
He could run for the governor of Florida, and let's remember, of course, he coached at Florida in Gainesville, not too far from there. And yeah, I mean, look what Tom Coughlin did. Came in and took an expansion Jaguars team. In just a few years, they were in the AFC Championship. Very solid. So much like we talk about the Rockets, and they have all these great draft picks waiting for them, first round picks in the next few years. It's how you draft. Just ask Jimmy Johnson, the Dallas Cowboys, Chris Smith. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to.
Ian, I think you're onto something there, because there are some Florida Gator fans that are not happy with Urban Meyer and the way he left, one, and two, some of the things that happened in his program. I know a Florida Gator fan who is as big a one as you'll find, and she doesn't want anything to do with the Jacksonville Jaguars right now, even though she's lived the last 15 of 16 years in Jacksonville. So I think this is a chance for him to pad that Florida resume, if you will, but also mend some fences and like you say, be the hero.
Hey, man, we'll see where it goes. Ian says it's very, very close. Could be announced as soon as tomorrow. Ian Castleberry joining the Wise Guys. It's our NFL Go Nuggets feature presented by David Creasman and DC Creasman Jewelers. More head coaching news, guys. The Bears will keep Matt Nagy. And Ian, his job was, I know, Chris, I'm kind of like on the fence too, but he got him to the playoffs. I mean, it's hard to fire a coach when you get him to the playoffs with two different quarterbacks and with Mitch Trubisky. That alone should have kept Nagy's job, but was that a factor in doing so, Ian?
It sure sounds like George McCaskey, the Bears chairman, took the same approach to this that you just did, Pat. Like, hey, he made the playoffs. 2 out of his 3 seasons, he did this without a quarterback. He kept the team together through a 6-game losing streak. Said, it was really impressive that the players never gave up during that 6-game losing streak, overlooking the fact that there was a 6-game losing streak in keeping Matt Nagy. And I think the general manager, Ryan Pace, also keeping him is a bit of a head scratcher.
That was stunning to me.
He's never going to be able to live down picking Mr. Trubisky over Deshaun Watson, over Patrick Mahomes, et cetera. I think you ask Bears fans, they're disheartened by this. They wanted change. They wanted to blow this whole thing up. It sounds like the Bears management didn't really have a tolerance or an appetite for blowing everything up, and seeing how Nagy and Pace can continue with this, maybe with a new quarterback. I don't know how well he will do with developing a new quarterback, given what he did with Trubisky. Nick Foles seemed to regress when he joined Chicago. Nagy has 2 more years left on his contract. Ryan Pace 1 more year. So maybe this is 1 more year of prove it. I think the Bears can be competitive in the NFC North, obviously behind the Packers, but still a chance to be a playoff team in 2021.
Chris Smith, could it be 1 more and done?
Hey, former Tar Heel Mitch Trubisky is a QB1, guys. I mean, no, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Deshaun Watson. And yes, that will always be remembered. But he is who you have. You don't overcoach him, and that's what Nagy did. He took away what Trubisky could do, and that's run. That opens up his game. Chicago has no running game, and their O-line stinks. I watch them a lot because I like Trubisky, and I watch him. No, he's not the best quarterback in the NFL, but he doesn't have the pieces to be either. And
see, that's for Pace. I'm like, why is he there? But you get rid of the GM. Usually, you don't want a new GM coming in and have they can't hire a head coach.
Yeah, but yeah, I do. I think it sets it up to this is it. I mean, this is his swan song. If they are in the same, if they're 8-8, 7-9, whatever next year, he's gone. There's no doubt he's gone next year if the same scenario plays out.
Wow. We will see where this one goes. But, look, I understand keeping Nagy. I really do. Look, I mean, my thing is, look what he did with what he had is how I look at it as well. And that kind of falls on the general manager, Ryan Pace. Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines. Hey, Ian, what names are being floated around for that Eagles opening? I would imagine they're looking to go offense to get Carson Wentz straightened out as job number 1.
Yeah, 2 names that popped up last night and this morning. One, which I think has already been debunked and shot down, was Ryan Day, the Ohio State head coach. He was an assistant with the Eagles years ago, but I think Ryan Day is pretty determined to stay in Columbus. Another name that the Eagles are supposedly very intrigued by, even though he's young and does not have much NFL experience, is Joe Brady, the Panthers offensive coordinator. You know, he put together a tremendous offense at LSU 2 years ago, did a good job, I think, installing a new offense and playing with the NFL game with the Panthers in its first season. But I think there is a significant concern with turning over a team like the Eagles to somebody with such little experience. You could also see a defense. I've seen Todd Bowles, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive coordinator, mentioned Robert Saleh, the 49ers defensive coordinator, is very popular among people in the Eagles front office. And then one name that I think people are very intrigued by, I don't know if he has a chance against some of the other more experienced offensive coordinators, but Deuce Staley, former Eagles running back, now he's the Eagles running backs coach and assistant head coach on Doug Peterson's staff. That might be really popular with fans, but I don't know how that would go, again, in terms of his experience, leader of men, overseeing a football team, et cetera.
Yeah. What about Kellen Moore, Chris? We're hearing the Cowboys offensive coordinator is already, the Eagles already called the Cowboys asking for permission to interview him.
Yeah, I think at some point he gets a job in the NFL, coaching Pat, no doubt. But what about Eric Bieniemy? What else does this guy need to do?
Right?
And he supposedly interviews for every job that's out there. Maybe the guy just doesn't interview well. I don't know. But everyone seems to like him. He's successful as a coordinator and a coach. What about Eric Bieniemy, Ian? I mean, why are we not hearing his name in connection with this job?
Or any others?
I'm stunned that the Texans didn't want to interview him. I mean, it seemed like that was the best fit for him, going to a team with Deshaun Watson. I don't know if, and this is something you would find out in the interview process, I would imagine. There's some question as to how much of the Chiefs' offense is Andy Reid versus Eric Bieniemy. Is Eric Bieniemy calling plays? Is he designing that offense? What is his role? But I agree with you. Eric Bieniemy, we probably should have mentioned him as a possibility with the Eagles. The Jets supposedly are interested in him as well. But I agree. It is a curiosity that Eric Bieniemy isn't seemingly the top candidate among the 6 teams looking for an NFL coach.
Speaking of Houston, Ian, do you think that the decisions, these really bad decisions that are being made by the front office, including just blowing off the search firm that they hired to find their general manager, just, by the way, just going with some other person, bypassing 2 minority candidates, one who's with the Steelers, and that's upset Deshaun Watson. Could we see Deshaun Watson not take his option and just become a free agent after next year?
I think we could. I mean, this might be a situation like we're seeing in the NBA, you know, with players forcing trades. We just saw that with James Harden yesterday. Deshaun Watson, are we going to a situation where players begin to try and exert their power in moving? He's clearly not happy with what's going on in Houston. It's hard to believe they wouldn't want an offensive guy to really build around Deshaun Watson. But the general manager pick didn't necessarily surprise me. The Texans have had their eye on Nick Caserio, even going back to last season. When I briefly covered the Patriots, it seems like that's what I wrote about every day, whether it was Nick Caserio might go over to the Texans, but Belichick was blocking that move because he was still under contract. But, yeah, they didn't go over through the process that I think Deshaun Watson and certainly the NFL would like in interviewing a variety of candidates for that position.
Ian, I know your Lions just hired a GM, but one name that you're not hearing in any of these searches is the Panthers have apparently narrowed it down to 4 candidates. If you listen to the talking heads at ESPN, they'll tell you Louis Riddick is the best GM in the history of the game, even though he's unemployed. He's a GM. Why aren't we hearing Louis Riddick's name anywhere?
I wonder if it's because he's kind of been out of the game. I mean, obviously he's very much in it in terms of doing TV for ESPN, analysis for Monday Night Football. Maybe that, you know, he doesn't necessarily have the experience in scouting and personnel recently that some of these other teams are looking for, experience in building a team. I honestly thought Riddick was going to be a stronger candidate in Detroit, and me and a few friends, fellow Lions fans, would kind of joke, every time Louis Riddick would say something positive about Matthew Stafford on Twitter. We're like, okay, well, he's campaigning for that Lions job. But, yeah, I'm surprised Riddick supposedly was one of the candidates in Houston. It looks like he's going to get squeezed out of these general manager openings, and I can't understand either. I think he's extremely talented and has just the right experience that you would want in a general manager.
Yeah, it seems these days the NFL is a lot more talk than action when it comes to minority hirings in the front office, and hopefully that's going to get better as time moves on. We're up against the clock, fellas, so Ian, let's get our divisional playoff picks. Break it down for us. We'll jump in, starting with the Rams at the Packers. We'll go as the games air this weekend. Can LA's defensive front grab a hold of Rodgers like they did Russell Wilson?
I think they can, and I think the Rams secondary is going to give Aaron Rodgers a lot of problems. This is my upset pick of the weekend. I think the Rams, even though it's going to be really cold in Green Bay, 35 degrees, I think the Rams are going to upset the Packers in this game.
What do you say, Chris?
Well, that's a big limb you're out on there, brother. I hope an Aaron Donald's not sitting on it because it'll crack. But, no, I think that defense is playing very well for the Rams, but I like the balance of running and passing with Green Bay in this game, in which weather could be a factor. Give me the Packers. And
if Donald is healthy, that'll be a difference. If he's not up to par, he says he'll be ready. There's one thing to say. It's a difference between I'll be ready for the game and am I 100% physically ready for the game. We'll see where that one goes. All right, Ravens at the Bills. Ian, are the Ravens the Cinderella team of this year's playoffs?
They certainly could be based on the regular season. I think their running game is going to give the Bills a whole lot of problems. And maybe the weather, if it snows in Buffalo, could even help the Ravens in terms of their running game. But I think Josh Allen's going to be the difference in this game, especially if he gets first downs running the ball. Maybe the Ravens don't have an answer for that. I think the Bills are going to squeak this one out.
What do you say, Chris Smith?
Yeah, that Bills Mafia, including Rick Rice, who's just down the hall, is going to be breaking picnic tables because they're rolling there. But, Lamar Jackson did get that proverbial monkey off his back in having that postseason win. That was kind of the knock on him. Great regular seasons, but hadn't done in the postseason. But I like the Bills in this one.
You notice I'm not giving my predictions because I'm under contract for NFL picks tomorrow on the show. But I'm curious.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly gleaning off of you boys right now. Ian Castleberry joining the Wise Guys on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines. It's our NFL Gold Nuggets feature presented by David Creasman and DC Creasman Jewelers. Next one, guys, Cleveland at Kansas City. Wow, Ian, can the Browns defense slow down Mahomes enough to pull off the upset here?
They cannot. I think if the Steelers hadn't given first 2 touchdowns to Cleveland, Pittsburgh possibly could have won that game. I think the Chiefs are going to roll here.
Excellent. Wow, Chris Smith?
Yeah, the Browns' D is playing well, but what they're going to have to do in this game is run the ball and control the clock. And that's the one thing they do. I think they lead the NFL in rushing, right? So they're capable of doing it, but this is a big stage for them. They finally got to the playoffs. They got that win last week. It was over a rival in the Steelers, and now all of a sudden, here comes Pat Mahomes, the defending champions. This is a big one for them, a big hurdle to climb, and I think they'll stay in it, but I don't think they're up to this task. Give me the Chiefs and Mahomes.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are going in that direction. And finally, guys, who wins the battle of the legendary quarterbacks? Ian, is it in the Big Easy Sunday night, Tom Brady or Drew Brees?
I think this is going to be a great game. The Saints defense is going to keep them in this game, but I just don't like how Drew Brees is playing right now. They don't look sharp. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay seems to get better every week. They really seem to be rolling right now. As great as the Saints secondary is, there are just too many weapons for Tom Brady to throw to. I think Tampa Bay is going to win this one.
All right, Chris Smith.
Yeah, I think that first matchup, Brady was still getting used to those weapons, and in the second matchup, they were getting used to Antonio Brown, and that game just defied logic, the 38-3 game. But I just keep thinking if Brady had Alvin Kamara, they'd be unbeatable. That's the one thing Brees has, and that'll keep him in this game. But I'm with you, Ian. I think Sean Payton, kind of the offensive genius, sometimes overplays the Taysom Hill thing and when he's going to use him down at the goal line and whatnot. I like Brady in this. It's tough to beat a team 3 times. Yep. You always hear that cliche. But he's got the weapons, and if they're clicking, they're a very formidable team. This is my upset of the week as well. I'll take the Bucs.
Yeah, man, that's my concern is the odds are not with the Saints. They've not only beaten Tampa Bay twice, they've walloped them twice. Tampa Bay is playing so well right now. That's going to be a good one to pick tomorrow for sure. Ian Castleberry, great as always. Thank you, sir, for getting us updated with our NFL Gold Nuggets on this Thursday.
All right. Thank you, guys. Great talking to you.
Always a treat, man. Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys, of course, presented by David Creasman and DC Creasman Jewelers.